Hello and welcome to another episode of Autocar Professional Dialogue. Today we are in conversation with Mr. Shashank Srivastava, Director Sales and Marketing, Maruti Suzuki India Limited. Shashank-san, thank you very much for talking to us and for sparing out the time.
Thank you.
First of all, many congratulations on the launch of the new Baleno. The car is standing right behind us, and I think it's sort of an evolutionary design compared to the outgoing car. First of all, I really want to understand from you, how easy or how difficult it is to sustain with a single product for like 6 years in the market, which is like changing in such a fast pace right now.
Yeah, so this is a very successful product. As you know, Baleno is in the top 5 selling models in the industry. Is the fastest to reach the 1 million sales mark in the history of the Indian auto industry. It was launched in 2015. And we have had one minor change in between, that was in January 2019, and subsequently you see a full model change today. It's being a very successful model. It is obviously very important in our portfolio. So in the premium hatch category, Maruti Suzuki dominates with almost 60% market share. So if you want to hold on to this market share and take it even higher, we would definitely like to give products which are in line with what the consumer actually wants. And I think today we realized that over a period of time, the customer is becoming more aspirational, and he's wanting more features, tech-loaded features, and that's what we try to do with the current Baleno. So Baleno always had that quotient of the bold. So the tagline is for the earlier Baleno was "Make bolder moves." It was something which is very much appreciated by the consumers. But in addition to that, they wanted these features and tech to be added, and as a result, we made all these changes. Even the design is like the philosophy is what we call crafted futurism, and now the tagline says "Tech goes bold." So we have retained that boldness element, and at the same time added the tech part to it.
So what attributes of this new car do you think are going to be the key drivers for the success of this model now in the market?
Yeah, so as I said, from a brand perspective, boldness is continued, and that's a very important thing for consumer. And tech features, obviously another thing which is over the period last few years, consumers have been demanding more and more of it. So these are two obvious parts to the Baleno brand as a whole. But of course, there are a host of things which are there which consumers prefer the Baleno for, like design, performance, space. These are the top 3 reasons why Baleno cars are purchased, and those pull factors are retained in the new Baleno as well.
Right. What investment has gone into this new model? You're calling it a full model change. I think some customers might still see it as an evolution over the outgoing car, but it's still a full model change. All the body panels and everything is sort of new.
Yes.
What exactly is the investment that has gone into this new model?
So the investment levels are roughly about 1,150 crores for this model, including the vendor investment. And you are right, this is a complete sea change. Not just the body panels, and if you see the interiors are changed, the engine is different. It's got a much higher fuel efficiency than the previous Baleno. The interior dual tone, synchronized interiors, those are also, and more importantly, you have a host of features like the HUD, the 360 camera, or the new infotainment system, and the 6 airbags and so on and so forth. So it's got a lot of those features added as well.
Right. Sticking with attributes, you mentioned 6 airbags. So far Maruti has like really played its card in terms of the fuel efficiency. I mean, you have in your portfolio a lot of cars which are like number 1 in their respective segments in terms of the fuel efficiency. Now with this getting 6 airbags, do we see Maruti also using this as one of its key USPs within the competition going forward? Yeah,
so if you see the premium hatchback segment, there are a couple of firsts which are there in this, like the HUD, which is also, by the way, a safety feature as well, because you focused on the road rather than looking around for information about the car. So HUD is also a safety feature, which is this is the only car in the segment which has HUD. 360 camera is also the only car in this segment which has this. So there are a lot of these only in the segment features, which I suppose will make it very attractive. and that's what we are hoping to do. As regards fuel efficiency, yes, that's a key point, especially when fuel prices are high. Maruti Suzuki is known for fuel efficiency, and this is no different. In fact, the fuel efficiency for this vehicle is about 6% higher for the manual transmission and about 15% higher for the automatic transmission. That's a lot, because you know, it's 22.9 for the AGS version, 22.3 for the manual transmission. By any standard, such fuel efficiencies are unheard of, I would say, in this segment.
Right. With as regards fuel efficiency, Shashank sir, so right now the fuel prices especially of petrol are like soaring, and customers are making this shift towards CNG. What are the plans of introducing CNG within the Nexa range going forward?
Yeah, so you are very right, and one of the reasons why CNG demand has been so strong. Today, about 15% of our sales is CNG. In fact, the models where we have CNG, 30% of the demand is CNG. The waiting list for CNG vehicles is much longer than the other versions of the same model, for example. So CNG is a very important part, and I think given the high fuel prices, as you rightly pointed out, the demand would continue to soar. And initially, we had not thought of a CNG for the Nexa. And all the 8 models where we have the CNG are actually part of our Arena model lineup.
Right.
But increasingly, we are getting this feedback from consumers that given the high fuel prices, given the fact that the CNG is now available much more freely in the country because of the vast network it has now been created for, people are saying, and also because as regards performance, as regards safety, the factory-fitted CNG vehicles are as good as the other ones.
Right.
So there is therefore a demand for CNG vehicles which is increasing, and we therefore feel that even for the Nexa, we must have the CNG. So we are studying it currently, and we'll be deciding when to introduce the CNG in the Baleno as well.
Okay. And getting CNG, Shashank, as someone who's been leading the company's marketing and sales functions, so do you think if you introduce CNG into the Nexa brand, is that going to impact the overall image of premiumness that you've created with Nexa?
Exactly. So you are right, because the reason why we did not introduce it earlier was because we were thinking whether it looks aspirational enough, or is it just about fuel efficiency? Right. Is it just about economy? Would it lose the aspirational quotient? And that was one big dilemma. But I think over the period of time, our research indicates that may not necessarily be true. In other words, it is possible to have CNG and it may still look fashionable even, because one, CNG looks smart, because second, the overall CNG, which had the image of a commercial vehicle earlier, is no longer true. In fact, a lot of the CNG vehicles which we are selling is purely in the personal space. So from those counts, especially for factory-fitted CNG, where the vehicles are designed up from the drawing board to the actual vehicle, based on whether it would be CNG or not, and therefore we believe that the loss of aspirational element quotient may not be there. That's the reason why we think we will be introducing the CNG in the Nexa as well.
Okay, and is that also going to lead you to introducing CNG within a number of different variants within a particular model? So far you've been sticking to like maybe just 1 or 2 variants that come with CNG.
Yeah.
So going forward, you hear more of your customers' feedback. So is that also going to lead you to offering CNG across the variant lineup perhaps?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say across all variants, but definitely more variants, because right now we have limited it to certain variants across all models, and there is increasingly this, earlier the thought was that people who want economy or of low running costs will go for one variant, usually at the lower end, and for others it's not so important. But we realized from customer feedback that even at the top end of any model, and in fact I must say, even running costs for Indian consumer is important, even if you have a very high-end car. So from that aspect, we realized that actually it's time that we should consider introducing the CNG across more variants, and of course, as we said, across more segment as well.
When you talk about across more variants, so that stays true for both the Arena as well as Nexa products?
Yes, of course, yes.
Right.
So Nexa, obviously we don't have the CNG at the moment,
Right.
but whenever we introduce it, definitely we'll like to offer it in more than one variant.
Right. And coming to Nexa, Shashank-san, so you started the Nexa channel sometime around 2015.
Correct.
In July.
Correct.
And I think the Baleno has been one of the key drivers of success of
Yes.
that whole Nexa
Yes.
channel.
Yes.
Now with the second generation coming in, what exactly are the plans to further strengthen the Nexa retail network in the country?
Yeah, so one is the network itself. We have almost 413 or 414 showrooms of Nexa spread across almost 250 cities. So the network is pretty large. We are wanting to expand it and go to the newer cities as well.
Right.
So definitely on the network side, we would like to expand. And of course, we have 5 brands at the moment in the Nexa, which is the Ignis, the S-Cross, the Ciaz, the XL6, the Baleno. We'd like to expand this as well. So yes, we have big plans for the Nexa. Currently, it's about 20% of the sales, and we would like to, raise that percentage for Nexa in our overall portfolio.
So do you have any specific target of how much more outlets we will be seeing in this financial year, FY 2023?
Yes, so no real target in that sense. But yes, segment-wise, when we decide on new brands to be introduced, new models to be introduced, we definitely have in mind that whether it is for the Nexa or the Arena. So accordingly, of course, as you know, the design philosophy is quite different for Arena as well as the Nexa.
So Shashank-san, this is from the customer's point of view, how the Nexa, the premium overall image around the Nexa brand is helping you tap that potential with the customers.
Yeah.
If we talk about the business side of the things, how is the response towards the Nexa, towards making investments into new Nexa outlets from the dealer's perspective?
Yeah, so it has gone, it's quite good actually, because as you know, the Nexa, the volumes are pretty large now. So even though when I mentioned it's 20% of Maruti Suzuki sales, if Nexa was an independent manufacturer, it would be the third largest in the country after Maruti and Hyundai.
Right.
So in that sense, it's because it's part of Maruti, people say, oh, it's 20% only, but actually Nexa annually sells about 250 to about 300,000 vehicles. So that's pretty large. And if it was, as I said, independent OEM manufacturer, Nexa would be the third largest.
So there's no hindrance there's no hiccup from the dealer's side?
From the retail side, no. Retail side, no. Of course, the margins are also better there in Nexa for the dealers.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the other factor. And yes, we have seen some extremely good response from the dealer side also. When we open new outlets, so we get dealers we ask dealers whether they would like to invest.
Right.
And we have seen an increasing tendency amongst dealers to go in for the Nexa brand as well.
Another angle of this retail side is this, the digital retail that has slowly, it started with the pandemic, especially, when people were locked in their homes and they couldn't go out and they didn't want to go out, perhaps to, see and book a car. What, as somebody who's leading the, sales and marketing role, what are the trends that you see going forward, maybe in the next couple of years, with respect to the overall digitization in the retail space in the auto industry? And what steps is Maruti or perhaps Nexa is going to take to tap that potential?
Yeah, so digitization actually started, we noticed that trend towards booking and inquiries on the digital space actually in 2016, much before the pandemic. But the percentage of inquiries which you used to get on that digital platform used to be about 2-3%. And that went up to about 16-17% in 2019, when in 2019-20.
Right.
So if you look at March 2020, we were at 15-16% of the inquiries coming on the digital space. Right. And then the COVID struck. Then within 3 months of the lockdown, we had almost 40% of the inquiries coming in. So what took us maybe 4 years to reach from 3% to 15%, took us just 3 months to reach from 15 to 40% thereabouts. And that, I think, is because of the lockdown imposed conditions, the increased trend towards digitalization. Because of that, this trend is actually accelerating, and we believe that even when the pandemic goes away, I don't think there will be a reversing of this trend. Today, for example, we are getting 35-40% of our inquiries on the digital space, and we are taking a lot of steps for that, both in terms of developing our hyper local activities for conversion of inquiry at the lower end of the funnel, even our digital marketing, which builds awareness at the top end of the buying funnel. Also, we are taking very big steps. We are doing in a big way digitalization at our dealerships to enable them to tackle the consumers, the new age consumers. Our communication and our investment in digital marketing is almost 30% of our total investments in the media. So in all respects, we have realized that digitalization is the way to go. And just for information, our research has shown that from the point of time when a customer decides to buy a car to the point when he actually takes the delivery of the car, there are about 26 touch points. We have digitized 24 of them. Only the test drive and the actual delivery is physical, right, which will continue, I suppose. Right. We are now talking not just when we used to talk earlier, we used to talk of how many showrooms we have in how many cities. But now we are also talking of how many digital showrooms we have. We have 1100 plus of them. Right. So the whole shift seems to be in that direction. And of course, the new age technology, AI, ML, the connectivity, the 5G, and so on, the technologies is enabling manufacturers, OEMs to market more in the digital space, because it enables them to have a lot of data about consumers, to analyze that data into different cohorts and hence be able to market our products, both cross-selling as well as upselling. And that's something which we are trying to do in our company as well.
So with that, do we see a convergence of, with digitalization, do you see a convergence of the overall retail model transitioning into, becoming this direct to customer model? Do you think that with the tech power, can companies really leverage that whole D2C retail model as well?
Yeah, so D2C is an interesting concept. Some companies are trying it. I think Mercedes is doing this in India. Is also trying in South Africa.
Right.
Honda is trying in New Zealand, and so on and so forth. Largely, these are markets with the smaller volumes, and I think going forward, tech should enable even larger volumes to be able to do that. But at the same time, I think there is that entrepreneurship element of the dealers, especially at the lower end of the funnel, which is required at the moment. And as far as Maruti Suzuki is concerned, we are going through that intermediate step, which is you can have stockyards which are in different places, so that the time to customer is shortened, because you can then stock vehicles and you can directly approach them with a shorter periods of time. So there are some pluses and minuses of both the systems. So let's see how it moves from here. But you are right, tech would enable, if a company wants, tech should enable it to be more in the D2C space.
You mentioned about the time to customer getting shortened. So what is the scenario right now? We've seen a very tough phase last year with the semiconductor shortage. What is the order backlog at MSIL, and how do you plan to cope up with getting faster deliveries to customers?
So we have about 2.72 lakh bookings which are pending at the moment. This is pretty large by the normal standards. The demand seems to be quite good. On the supply side, though, there have been constraints, as you know, because of the semiconductor, and as a result, we have seen waiting periods build up for different models. I think there is only one solution, which is to try to increase your production as much as possible. And of course, we are grateful to customers who have had the patience. They have booked the vehicle, they have been waiting for some time. But I think as the situation improves and we'll be able to produce more vehicles, we should be able to supply to the customers and reduce this waiting period.
Sure. Another aspect that I want to touch upon is that, the Baleno is also shared with Toyota as the Glanza, which Toyota is retailing in the Indian market.
No.
So has there been any synergy between the two marketing teams so that they're able to sell the Glanza in a better way, and any such
no, because one, competition laws don't allow that, and second, we would compete as marketing, and in marketing and sales, they are like competitors. So we compete as strongly as we do any other brand.
So there are no synergistic efforts that both of you are tapping in terms of the marketing and sales efforts?
No.
Right. So final question, Shashank sir. So what exactly are the company's hopes from this new model and going forward in terms of sales? And maybe if you could just give an idea of how much the new Baleno is going to be doing in the coming financial year, and if there are any numbers in terms of the bookings that you could also share with us.
So booking numbers, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the moment the bookings are about 25,000.
So they began on February 7th.
7th February.
Okay.
So we have about 25,000 bookings pending at the moment for the new Baleno. As regards your other question of how much volumes, it does currently about 15,000 a month in a premium hatch market of about 55,000 or so.
Right.
So it's more than 25% market share in that segment. So we would expect this new age Baleno to do better than that, of course. Depends on the market size overall, obviously. But we already have in this space 60% of the market share with Baleno, Swift and the Ignis.
Right.
So our eyes are definitely on that balance 40%.
Okay. On that note, thank you very much, Shashank.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.